Hi, I'm Mo, and apparently I am a breaker of promises. I'm very, very sorry. I promised last video that I was going to make a video about socks this video. Two things happened. Number one, the sun came out. And so I was knitting on the porch, getting sun as much as possible, and not filming myself making socks. I did make the socks. They're right here. Apparently, I can make a pair of socks in a week. Way to go, me. But the second thing that happened is a knitting emergency. I don't know, a new obsession? Something like that. I'm not sure what to call it, but we'll talk about it soon. Just to give you a little bit of a preview, this is the yarn emergency. And I know it doesn't look like much right now, but we're going to talk about it. Socks. I don't know if you know this about filming or about trying to document your progress while you are doing progress. I didn't get any footage of me making socks. Like none. I got none. I know there's a switch in my head that I have to turn on that if I want to document myself doing the thing, I have to stop doing the thing, get the camera, set it up, and then record it, then start doing the thing. I'm not in that mindset yet. So I have a ways to go to learn how to document my progress on things. The socks that I knit, I used the vanilla sock pattern by Crazy Sock Lady or Crazy Sock Designs, link down in the description. I followed the pattern almost exactly. I made two changes or deviations from the pattern. The first of which is I did a twisted German cast on, and you could see how that looks up there at the top. When I took my sock class last November to knit my first pair of socks, my instructor recommended the German twisted cast on because it is nice and stretchy. And I like the way that it looks, so I used that. The vanilla sock pattern uses just a regular long tail cast on. So that was deviation number one. Deviation number two, you could see it. I added an accent color for the cuff, the heel, and the toe. That's not in the pattern, but I did it anyway just to be creative and different and stuff like that. That being said, I think the next pair of socks that I make, which is not going to be super soon because of the knitting emergency, I think I'm going to make that pair of socks in one full color because I want to see how not having to deal with color changes affects my tension. There were a couple of places here in this pair of socks and in my first pair of socks here, this is my first pair of socks. There were a couple of places where my tension got kind of wonky, and I feel like that might have been because I was dealing with color changes. So gonna try a pair of socks with no color changes whatsoever, see if that helps my tension in my socks. But otherwise, I knit the pattern to a T. I guess you could say I didn't do as long of a cuff or leg part as what's called for in the pattern, but she does say you can customize how many rows you do here to get how long you want the socks to be. So that's what I did. I did 20 rows of cuff and 25 rows of the ankle part before you start the heel turn and gusset. Otherwise, I I didn't make any other customizations. This was very hard for me because I am not a pattern follower normally. Normally, I'll see a pattern or I'll see a recipe and I'll think to myself, yeah, that's a good starting point. I think I'm gonna do this different. So, but this time, because I wanted to play around with, I don't know, the fit, or not so much play around with it, but I wanted to see the default. How does that fit? How do I like that, you know, on my foot? And where do I need to go from there? And so this pair of socks, at this point, they are a little bit tighter than I like them, and they are a little bit shorter than I would like them. But we're talking like maybe 1/8 of an inch, maybe like a millimeter, maybe 2 millimeters of difference before it's exactly where I want it. And so before I do any adjustments to the pattern to make my perfect sock, I'm gonna wash these, kind of stretch them out a little bit, dry them, and see if that fixes the length and the tightness and gets it to exactly where I want. Because this pair of socks, I forget the name of the pattern for this pair, but for the class we were doing a sock pattern by Tin Can Knits, and the pattern by Tin Can Knits was actually almost identical to the vanilla sock recipe, with the exception that they're supposed to be a decorative element on the top of the sock that I just didn't do. Otherwise, it's very, very similar. Oh, and then the heel, didn't do the slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one thing here. I made this in the large size because I thought, oh, my foot measurement is this, and the finished sock circumference is that, so that's what I want. I did not realize that for sizing issues, that there's a difference between the finished circumference of the item and the recommended sizes of your foot. So this sock is, I mean, you can see how wide it is. It's way too big. And while it's comfortable and I like it, it's really more of a slipper than a sock. And it fits way bigger than what I find comfortable to wear as a sock with shoes. So learned a lesson there. This pair of socks, this new pair, I made in the size medium. And like I said, right now it's fitting a little bit tighter than what I would like, and it's fitting a little bit shorter than what I would like. That might change. It might relax after being washed and be perfect. But if it doesn't, I'm prepared to add another 3 to 5 rows on the foot before I start the toe, and maybe cast on 4 extra stitches on the cast on. So the current size medium, or size medium socks in the pattern right now, you cast on 64, and the size large you cast on 72, and that's why I'm thinking 68, because that's sort of halfway between the two. I want to see that. But again, I really want to wait until I wash this. The toe, I'm very happy with the toe. That's a nice size toe. I like the curve of it. It's comfortable. No complaints about the toe at all. I do have a complaint about the heel though, and it's something that I noticed in this pair of socks. So I have very wide feet, which is why I kind of defaulted to the size large in the first place. And so the heel here is better than this heel, but I did still notice that the heel flap, this part that comes down, oh, I'm losing my sock. This part that comes down here, because of the way this heel turn is constructed, some of the heel flap ends up going under my foot, and there's kind of a seam right here that you can kind of feel when you walk, and I don't like that. So I need to widen the heel turn. I don't know how to do that. And it's even more pronounced here. So if you have very, very narrow heels, maybe that works for you. That doesn't work for me. This is how wide my heel would have to be in order to not step on any of the heel flap part, which is what I'm trying to avoid. That's too narrow for me. So what I want to do is find a way to make this curve be more like this. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. I'm gonna have to do some research and figure that part out to see. I'm sure there's somewhere on YouTube that talks about it. I'm sure there are resources I can look up that talks about it, but I would like my heel to be more like that. And right now, it's that. And that doesn't work for me. So otherwise, happy with this sock. I like the sock. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. My honest to goodness only complaint is the heel. And even that, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, I put on the sock and once I walk around with it a little bit, I don't notice that I'm stepping on the heel flap part, but I don't like it. And I would like the heel turn to just be a little bit wider for my foot. I'm sure there's a way to do it, and that is going to be what I try for my next sock. So once I figure out, is this length and size the right length and size for me, I might only have to just make the edit on the heel. That might literally be the only thing. And then I just make a medium vanilla sock with the edited heel, and then boom, I have my perfect sock. But I got to test it out. That's going to be a while because I have a knitting emergency or a knitting hyperfixation obsession thing. I don't know what to call it. Season 2 of Silo dropped back in November. Watched episode 1 and I saw this sweater. I'm just going to put it on the screen. I saw this sweater. I would say it's like a blink and you miss it kind of a moment, but it's really not a blink and you miss it. It's like 5 minutes of the episode. The second I saw that sweater, I was like, oh, I really like that sweater. I want to make that. I want that sweater to be here on me. I want to wear that sweater. Unfortunately, as good as Silo is, it doesn't have the reach of Taylor Swift. Like, Taylor Swift wore a dress when she went out for dinner with her boyfriend, and the next day, everybody was trying to copy that crochet pattern all over the internet. Silo was not like Taylor Swift. Nobody's trying to copy the sweater. I asked a bunch of people at my yarn group, nobody knew how to make that sort of shell motif. I didn't even know what to call it. I mean, what do you call that? How do you knit that? And like, I didn't even know search terms. And when I put the picture in the Google search, like Google picture search, nothing was coming up. Nobody was talking about this sweater. So I waited a couple weeks. I was like, okay, Apple TV Plus is not the most popular streaming service. Silo is not the most popular show. Most of you probably haven't even heard of it. You should watch it though. It's a really good show. It might take a while before somebody who knows how to knit sees the episode, sees the sweater, looks at it and goes, ooh, that's a really cool sweater. This is how you make it. Or here's the pattern for it, or just something in the direction of that pattern or of how to make that, so that I could try to figure it out for myself, right? Enter BlueSky. Now, I signed up for a BlueSky account months ago. Never posted anything. It was really more of a, oh, here's another social media network that I can ignore. But I got kind of desperate, and I really didn't want to go to Reddit, and I don't want to go onto Instagram or anything like that. So I was like, okay, I've never posted anything on BlueSky. Let's make this my inaugural post. I posted the picture and I said, hey, does anybody know how to do this? Or do you know of a pattern? Do you know what this is called so I could search for it? Like, I don't know what this is. And I really want to do this. Couple of people sent me on different journeys. Some people were like, look up ripple stitch. It's not a ripple stitch, just so we're clear here. One person sent me this pattern, which, I mean, the shape is right, but the texture is off. And I thought to myself, okay, well, if I don't find anything that fits, I could always make something based on that pattern and then like come back over with, like, I don't know, surface crochet, or like, do some I-cord or something for that texture on the sweater. I could figure something out from there, maybe. But I was still kind of like, it's not really it, right? And then pay dirt. A person sent me a link to a blog post by Modern Design Knits. I think that's the name of it. The link is down in the description. Apparently, in fall of 2016, Prada launched their fall line. And in this fall line was a sweater that eventually got worn by Eddie Redmayne. Here is a sweater vest version of the sweater, and then Eddie Redmayne wearing the sweater. And if you look, that shape is really, really similar, and the texture, to the Young Juliette sweater. That's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it the Young Juliette sweater because on Silo it was worn by Young Juliette. That's not spoilers, by the way. So anyway, that put me on a path to look into this sweater, or into this pattern. Luckily, the person who did the blog post, her name is Julia Farwell Clay. She made a sweater. She made a cardigan out of it. Now, her cardigan, she doesn't have a pattern for that, but it's not the same as the Young Juliette sweater. The motif, that sort of shell motif in the Young Juliette sweater is bigger. Like they're bigger shells than what are in her cardigan. But she did have a pattern for a hat or a cowl, as well as another pattern for a shawl. So I bought the pattern for the hat slash cowl just to get an idea of how to make this motif. And I think this is going to be the project where I use that yarn I didn't use for the knit along that I didn't participate in. I think I put too many negatives in that sentence. I don't care. But the yarn that I didn't use for that knit along, the artist shawl, I think I found my project. I think this is going to be my project. I think, and I don't know why I'm saying I think. I know. I already know. I am going to try to make this sweater. But I'm starting with the cowl to get an idea of how to do the stitch. This is still the foundation stitch. I'll be posting progress. If you have a BlueSky account, I'm posting progress there as well. I only have 3 BlueSkys. I don't know what they're called there. They're not tweets. I don't know what they call them there. But I've only posted like 3 things there. And one of them was the call for help on, hey, what is this sweater? And how do you make this? But I've cast on the Eddie cowl by Julia Farwell Clay, and so far I'm really excited about this. The yarn that I'm using is that 70s kit. Is it upside down? Yes, it's upside down, sorry. It's that 70s kit. This is a DK weight yarn by Emma's Yarn. It's the theme pack. This is the main color, that right there. And then I'm just going to make stripes of that shell motif of all of these colors to make up the cowl. And then from there, it's going to be an adventure trying to figure out how to construct this sweater. I'm not entirely sure. And as you can see from this sweater, constructing sweaters isn't really my forte. But I really want to make this sweater. And I think that is going to be my focus for the next, until I need a break from it. I don't know if it's going to be some months or some weeks. I have no idea, but I think I'm going to be working on the Young Juliette sweater. I'm kind of obsessed right now. And I'll post more about it as I go. I'm gonna work on being better about filming myself in the process. And hopefully you're interested, or maybe you have some tips or suggestions. Like, for example, I can already tell that the neckline of the sweater is it's a 2x2 ribbing. I think it might be a 3x3, but I think it's a 2x2 ribbing. It looks like the front and the back are knitted as flat panels, and then it's seamed together in a boat neck sort of a construction. I can't quite tell if it's an I-cord bind off at the neckline or not, but there is some sort of texture at the neckline. like a rolled hem sort of a thing. That might be I-cord. Obviously it's a drop shoulder, and then I can't tell if the sleeves are done in the round or if they are also done flat and then seamed down at the bottom. I can't tell that. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of good images in the show of the sweater. There's not a lot of good images of different angles, and you know, it was filmed for the show, like in an almost action scene. It wasn't filmed for fashion. So there's a bunch there. I don't know. I'm kind of embarrassed of how many times I have watched that scene over and over and over again to get as much information from it as I could. But that is what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to work on the cowl. I will show more progress as I go, and I'll try to do some knitting shots, like some shots of me actually knitting. I'm working on that, and I'm working on getting better about not just doing the thing, but documenting myself doing the thing. They are two separate skill sets, and I got to work on them. So that's it for now. Again, I'm really sorry about the sock thing. Again, I fully intended to show shots of me making the socks and discussing, you know, my progress along the way. And then it was sunny. It was sunny outside. And no part of me wanted to drag a camera out and deal with that when there was sun outside. I live in the Pacific Northwest. We take our sun seriously here. I needed the vitamin D. So the Eddie cowl, on my way to making the Young Juliette sweater. Hopefully I'll learn more through this process, and I'll be able to come up with something for how to construct that sweater. I don't know if this is going to be interesting. Again, this is me just falling down the rabbit hole, kind of getting obsessed with something that I saw on TV. I'm pretty excited about this. I know it's weird to be this obsessed over something you saw on TV, but I'm kind of surprised at how obsessed I am over a sweater that I saw on TV. But that's where I'm going right now, and I hope you join me on this journey. And hey, if you know about knitting and about how to do some of the things with this sweater, I would love suggestions down below, please. And thank you, but mostly please. Have a good one. Bye.